the truest tongue of Abu Dhar, the messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, foresaw the future of his companion and summarized his entire life in these words. For courageous truthfulness is the very essence of Abu Dhar's life. Truthfulness in his inner self, and truthfulness in his outward appearance, truthfulness in his faith, and truthfulness in his speech. And he would live truthfully, neither deceiving himself, nor deceiving others, nor allowing anyone to deceive him. And even if his truthfulness were a mute virtue, for silent truth is no truth for Abu Dhar. Rather, truth is outspoken and public declaration of right and challenging falsehood, supporting what is right and refuting error. Truthfulness is a righteous allegiance to the truth, a bold expression of it, and a swift journey alongside it. And indeed, the messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, with his piercing insight across the distant unseen and the far unknown, foresaw all the hardships that Abu Dhar's truthfulness and firmness would bring upon him. Thus, he would always instruct him to make gentleness and patience his approach and path. And one day, the messenger posed this question: O Abu Dhar, what will you do when you are overtaken by rulers who monopolize the spoils? He replied, saying, Then, by he who sent you with the truth, I will strike with my sword. But the messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, said to him, Shall I not guide you to something better than that? Be patient until you meet me. Do you see why the messenger asked him this particular question? Rulers and wealth. That is Abu Dhar's cause to which he would dedicate his life, and that is his challenge with society and with the future. And the messenger of God knew this, so he posed the question to him to provide him with this precious advice: Be patient until you meet me. And Abu Dhar would indeed preserve the advice of his teacher. He would not wield the sword that rulers who enrich themselves with the wealth of the nation fear, but also he would not be silent about them for a moment of the day. Yes, if the messenger had forbidden him from drawing his sword against them, he did not forbid him from wielding his sharp tongue in defense of the truth. And indeed, he would do so. The era of the messenger passed, and after him, the era of Abu Bakr and the era of Omar in complete supremacy over life's temptations and the impulses of fitna. Even those souls that yearned and desired found no path or outlet for their desires. In those days, there were no deviations for Abu Dhar to raise his voice against and ignite with his fiery words. And the era of the commander of the believers, Omar, was long, imposing upon the Muslim governors, rulers, and wealthy in every land, a piety and austerity that was almost beyond human capacity. If a governor from his governors in Iraq, or in the Levant, or in Sana'a, or in any of the distant lands, were to receive even a type of sweet that the common people could not afford to buy, the news would reach Omar within days, and his strict orders would be sent to summon that governor to Medina to face his harsh reckoning. Let Abu Dhar rejoice then, and rejoice even more as long as the great Farouk, Omar, is the commander of the believers, and as long as nothing in Abu Dhar's life troubles him as much as the exploitation of authority and the monopolization of wealth, then Ibn al-Khattab, with his strict monitoring of power and his just distribution of wealth, would grant him tranquility and contentment. Thus he devoted himself to worshiping his Lord and to striving in his cause, not resorting to silence if he saw a transgression here or there, though he rarely saw any. However, the greatest, most just, and most magnificent of human rulers departed from the world one day, leaving behind a tremendous void, and his departure caused reactions that were inevitable and beyond people's power to control. Conquests continued in their expansion, and with them rose the tide of desires and aspirations for the pleasures and luxuries of life. And Abu Dhar saw the danger. The banners of personal glory were about to tempt those whose entire role in life was to raise the banner of God. Indeed, the world with its embellishment and its alluring deception was about to tempt those whose entire message was to make it a farm for good deeds. Indeed, wealth, which God made an obedient servant to man, was about to turn into a tyrannical master, and with whom? With the companions of Muhammad, who died while his shield was pawned, while heaps of spoils and gains were at his feet. Indeed, the bounties of the earth, which God created for all people and made their right to them equal, were about to become a monopoly and a privilege. Indeed, authority, which is a responsibility that makes the hearts of the righteous tremble in fear of God's reckoning for it, was turning into a means for control, for wealth, and for destructive, wicked luxury. Abu Dhar saw all of this and did not search for his duty or his responsibility. Rather, he extended his right hand to his sword. He swung it in the air, tearing it apart, and stood up to face society with his sword that had never known defeat. But quickly, the echo of the advice that the messenger had given him resounded in his heart. So he returned the sword to its scabbard, for it should not be raised in the face of a Muslim. And it is not for a believer to kill a believer, except by mistake. His role today is not to kill, but to object. And the sword is not the tool for change and rectification, but the truthful, trustworthy, and resolute word. The just word that does not lose its way and does not fear its consequences. Indeed, the messenger once declared in front of a gathering of his companions that the earth had not carried, nor had the sky shaded a tongue truer than Abu Dhar's. And whoever possessed this measure of truthful speech and sincere conviction, what need did he have for the sword? Indeed, a single word he utters is more potent than an earth full of swords. So let him go forth with this truthfulness to the rulers, to the wealthy, to all those who, by inclining towards the world, have become a danger to the religion that came as a guide, not a collector of tribute, and a prophecy, not a kingdom, and mercy, not punishment, and humility, not arrogance, and equality, not discrimination, and contentment, not greed, and sufficiency, not luxury, and moderation in taking from life, not infatuation with it or recklessness for it. Let him go forth to all of these until God judges between them and him with truth, and he is the best of judges. And Abu Dhar went forth to the strongholds of power and wealth, invading them with his opposition, stronghold after stronghold. And, in a few short days, he became the banner around which the masses and laborers rallied. Even in distant lands whose people had not yet seen him, his fame flew to them. And he would not pass through a land, nor would his name reach a people without arousing important questions that threatened the interests of those in power and wealth. If this noble revolutionary had wanted to adopt a special emblem for himself and his movement, the symbol inscribed on the banner would have been nothing but a branding iron glowing red and ablaze, for he made his anthem and his slogan, which he repeated everywhere and at all times. and people repeated after him as if it were an anthem these words: "Give tidings of torment to those who hoard gold and silver, with branding irons of fire with which their foreheads and sides will be branded on the day of resurrection. He would not ascend a mountain, nor descend a plain, nor enter a city, nor confront a ruler without these words on his tongue. And people no longer saw him coming without receiving him with these words: Give tidings of torment to the hoarders with branding irons of fire." This phrase became the emblem of his mission, to which he dedicated his life, when he saw wealth becoming concentrated and monopolized, and when he saw power becoming arrogance and exploitation, and when he saw love of the world becoming dominant and about to obliterate all that the years of the great message had created of beauty, piety, devotion, and sincerity. He began with the most powerful and formidable of those strongholds. There, in the Levant, where Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan ruled a land that was among the most fertile and abundant of the lands of Islam. And he was giving out wealth and distributing it without restraint, attracting to himself the people who had status and position, and securing his future to which his distant ambition aspired. There, the estates, palaces, and wealth were tempting the remaining carriers of the call. So Abu Dhar hastened to recognize the danger before it engulfed and destroyed. And the leader of the opposition hitched up his humble cloak from his legs and raced like the wind to the Levant. And no sooner did the common people hear of his arrival than they received him with enthusiasm and longing, and gathered around him wherever he went and traveled. "Tell us, O Abu Dhar, tell us, O companion of the messenger of God." Abu Dhar casts a discerning gaze upon the crowds around him, seeing that most of them are people of need and poverty. Then he directs his sight towards the nearby outskirts, seeing palaces and estates. Then he cries out to those gathered around him, saying, "I am amazed by the one who finds no sustenance in his house, how he does not go out against the people brandishing his sword." Then he immediately remembers the advice of the messenger of God to replace upheaval with patience, and the courageous word with the sword. So he abandons this language of war and returns to the language of logic and persuasion, teaching all people that they are all equal like the teeth of a comb, and that they are all partners in sustenance, and that no one has superiority over another except through piety, and that the leader of a people and their guardian is the first to go hungry if they go hungry, and the last to be satiated if they are satiated. He decided to create with his words and courage a public opinion from all lands of Islam that would have enough wisdom, resilience, and strength to become a restraint upon its rulers and wealthy, and to prevent the emergence of classes that exploit authority or monopolize wealth. In just a few days, all of the Levant was like beehives that had found their obedient queen. If Abu Dhar had given a fleeting signal for revolution, it would have ignited into a fire. But as we said, he focused his attention on creating a public opinion that would command respect, and his words became the talk of gatherings, mosques, and roads. His danger to the emerging privileges reached its peak the day he debated Muawiyah in front of a crowd of people. Then, he conveyed the witness of the debate to those absent from it, and news of it traveled with the winds. And Abu Dhar stood, the most truthful of tongues in the world, as his prophet and teacher described him. He stood questioning Muawiyah without fear or appeasement about his wealth before he became governor, and about his wealth today, and about the house he used to live in Mecca, and about his palaces in the Levant today. Then he directs the question to those sitting around him, from the companions who accompanied Muawiyah to the Levant, and some of whom now possessed palaces and estates. Then he shouts at them all, "Are you the ones upon whom the Quran was revealed, while the messenger was among you?" He takes it upon himself to answer them, "Yes, you are the ones in whom the Quran was revealed, and you witnessed with the messenger the momentous events." Then he returns and asks, "Do you not find in the book of God this verse? And those who hoard gold and silver and spend it not in the way of Allah, give them tidings of a painful punishment. The day when it will be heated in the fire of hell and seared therewith will be their foreheads, their flanks, and their backs. It will be said, 'This is what you hoarded for yourselves, so taste what you used to hoard.'" Muawiyah interrupts the conversation, saying, "This verse was revealed about the people of the book." Abu Dhar shouts, "No, rather, it was revealed for us and for them." Abu Dhar continues speaking, advising Muawiyah and those with him to relinquish all that they possess of estates, palaces, and wealth, and that none of them should withhold for himself more than the needs of his day. News of this debate and the news of Abu Dhar spread through gatherings and crowds, and the chant of Abu Dhar rises in homes and streets, "Give tidings of torment to those who hoard with branding irons of fire on the day of resurrection." Muawiyah senses the danger and is alarmed by the words of the noble revolutionary, but he recognizes his worth, so he does not plot evil against him. He writes immediately to the Caliph Uthman, may God be pleased with him, saying to him, "Abu Dhar has corrupted the people in the Levant." Uthman writes to Abu Dhar, summoning him to Medina. Abu Dhar hitches up the edge of his cloak from his legs once more and travels to Medina, leaving the Levant on a day that Damascus had never witnessed the like of in terms of honor and farewell. Before you close this video, I want to ask you one question. Do you think these stories deserve to reach someone who's feeling lost right now? If your answer is yes, then do this immediately. 1. Tap like. It takes 1 second. 2. Write yes in the comments. Why? YouTube's algorithm cares about your comment more than your view. Your yes could literally place this video in front of a heart that needs it. I'll read every single comment. Don't just watch. Be the reason someone finds light today.